Hello, I'm Bridget Goodman, and with Sulushash Kerimkulova, Andrey Chsherbakov, and Assel Kambatyrova, we will be talking about our study of students' development of multilingual competence in English as a medium of instruction postgraduate research programs here in Kazakhstan. We're exploring this issue because according to the Prime Minister of Kazakhstan in 2016, 42 universities are implementing the country's trilingual education policy by teaching in 3 languages, not only English, but also Kazakh and Russian. And we want to know, are students in these programs actually developing academic skills in 3 languages? So we have the main research question of students' development of multilingual competence and 3 sub-questions, the first 2 of which we will talk about in depth today. The first is the extent to which students report genre knowledge, and we will define further what genre knowledge means. Second, the extent to which students are able to transfer their genre knowledge among 3 languages. And we highlight transfer here because we consider this a way to look at language practices through a heteroglossic translanguaging lens. And finally, which situated institutional practices and norms are identified as contributing to the development or hindering development of competence in EMI and other languages.
This study employed a mixed methods, multiple case study research design. Quantitative approach, surveys were chosen as the main instrument administered to students to allow them to self-report their development of genre knowledge in 3 languages, Kazakh, Russian, English, and the extent to which institutional policies and supports contribute to that development. Within qualitative approach, 2 types of instruments were employed: focus groups with faculty members and students, and individual interviews with administrators. Purposeful sampling strategy was chosen for selection of the research sites. 6 universities from 4 regions of Kazakhstan. The rationale for choosing these universities was that they have begun to teach disciplines in 3 languages in their postgraduate master and PhD programs under the State Program for Industrial Innovative Development Funding for Research and Trilingual Education. These universities are also distributed among 4 main geographic regions of the country: center, south, north, and east. Additionally, they present also different types of institutions: national and regional universities on one side, and comprehensive and technical or specialized ones on the other. For ethical reasons, the selected research sites were assigned pseudonyms.
In our study, we employ the model of genre knowledge developed by Christine Tardy, which conceptualizes genre knowledge among 4 dimensions: formal, process, rhetorical, and subject matter. Formal genre knowledge has to do with the knowledge of the linguistic code and the mechanics of writing, such as citing, text structure and organization, and the knowledge of academic grammar and vocabulary. Process genre knowledge involves the awareness of the procedures involved in creating the work in a particular genre. For example, the steps involved in publishing an article or presenting at a conference, or the steps involved in information search. Rhetorical genre knowledge is the ability of the student to recognize the goal and audience of the text and use rhetorical devices to create a persuasive text. And finally, the subject matter genre knowledge is a knowledge of the actual subject, such as field-specific terminology, gaps in literature, and the names of the key researchers in the field. While these dimensions somewhat overlap and influence each other, they are nevertheless distinct and clearly defined entities, and the extent of their development in a particular student can be relatively easily measured. This clear-cut nature of the framework was attractive to us, because it could be easily adopted in developing a quantitative instrument that would measure and present an informative description of genre knowledge of the participants of the study. Our team developed a list of items for each of the subcomponents of genre knowledge in each of the three languages, Kazakh, Russian and English. These items took the form of can-do statements. These were then refined through an expert content validation procedure and piloted among the students of Nazarbayev University, so as to ensure the clarity of the questions in all the three languages. I will now briefly discuss some of the findings. The first finding is that the levels of genre knowledge in the three languages are significantly different, with Russian genre knowledge being the highest and the English genre knowledge the lowest. The difference and order of mastery is evident across all the four components of genre knowledge. One of the quantitative analyses that we used in our study was factor analysis. With factor analysis, we were able to identify the items that didn't fit the predefined model of genre knowledge. In the table on this slide, you can see examples of such items. For example, in the formal knowledge category, the items related to citing didn't fit the theoretical model. In the process genre category, the ability to plan a presentation didn't fit. Given that these items scored minimum points in their respective categories, this might be an indication that these particular skills are the least developed and therefore not well understood by students. This table also shows which skills within each category of genre knowledge scored the highest, which suggests that these particular skills are most well developed in the participants of our study. Another interesting and important result of factor analysis was that the items did not group uniformly in different languages. While in the English genre knowledge items, the variable groupings fit our theoretical model nearly perfectly, the groupings in the Russian genre knowledge items fitted the model less, and in the Kazakh language genre knowledge, there were substantial discrepancies between the theoretical model and the factor analysis groupings. The diagrams on this slide show the degree to which this mismatch occurred in our data. In the English genre knowledge diagram, the categories separated nearly perfectly. In the Russian genre knowledge, there was substantial overlap between the rhetorical and subject genre knowledge. And in the Kazakh genre knowledge diagram, rhetorical, process, and subject matter genre knowledge overlapped strongly. This may be interpreted as the reflection of the applicability of our theoretical model, which was developed in the English language academic settings, to genre systems that exist in academic discourse in other languages, and indeed in other academic cultures. Thus, it is possible that genre structure and accordingly the structure of genre knowledge in non-English language academic discourse communities should be investigated through a different lens. Alternatively, the mismatch between the model and the results of the survey may be an indication of the students' unclear understanding of certain aspects of genre knowledge as a result of poor development of these aspects in Russian and Kazakh, may be due to lack of proper instruction in academic genres through the education system. Notably, formal genre knowledge separates well in all the three languages, which is most likely an indication that this type of genre knowledge is the most well developed in students and is probably the easiest to develop in any language. The size of the circles in these diagrams show the average scores in the corresponding genre knowledge category. Russian genre knowledge is by far the most well developed in the participants. A quote: "To support our suggestion about the differences in genre knowledge instruction in different languages, we have a quote from a student of a national comprehensive university. She talks about the lack of focus on academic genre in her undergraduate studies, where she was learning artistic or creative writing skills, and only in her graduate EMI or polylingual program she started focusing on academic genres. Also, to illustrate our idea of the differences in the structure of genre knowledge in different languages, an administrator of a regional university talks about the descriptive nature of the Russian language and a more precise nature of the English language, which she believes is more suitable for expressing scientific ideas and writing articles.
In terms of defining transfer and the relationship between transfer and genre knowledge, first, it's important to know that in the past, people typically thought of transfer as negative transfer or interference from the mother tongue or first language into the target language or second language. But more recent scholarship has argued and shown that transfer can be positive or negative and be multi-directional. Second, when we talk about transfer among languages, it's not only transfer of specific language forms or practices, but knowledge of entire genres. And again, this transfer can be positive or negative. And third and finally, this transfer of genre knowledge can be strategic. It can be full or selective adaptive, or instead of transferring genre knowledge, overall awareness of identifying genres and rhetorical strategies might transfer.
The analysis of quantitative data revealed that transfer of genre knowledge is strongest from mother tongue to English. And as you see at this table provided in the slide, among three types of genre knowledge, subject genre knowledge transfers more easily than formal or rhetorical genre knowledge. As for differences of total transfer between different groups, the t-test and ANOVA results showed that total transfer is not significantly different across medium of instruction, degree level, and university type. It should be noted that significant difference in total transfer exists between regional and national universities. However, as you see, the effect size is small. It is 0.33. The analysis indicates that total transfer correlates with genre knowledge in all languages, but particularly strongly with genre knowledge in English. It doesn't, however, correlate with IELTS scores or GPA, but does correlate with reported proficiency in English and Kazakh, but not in Russian. In addition, transfer appears higher among students who report proficiency in Kazakh and Russian. This slide presents the qualitative data on transfer of genre knowledge. As you see, the quote presented in this slide is an evidence of De Palma and Ringer's adaptive transfer. The point is, some students reported that they are able to apply their English writing skills in Kazakh or Russian. They expressed a belief that writing in English is more precise and to the point, while writing in Kazakh and Russian requires them to produce a long, vague and complicated text before getting to the point. And therefore they try to write in Kazakh and Russian like in English, more straightforward and to the point. It turned out that other students do not transfer, but rather differentiate writing skills based on language ideologies. One of the PhD students shared an interesting view, saying that it is not a question of writing styles in different languages, but it rather depends on the language itself. Because Russian and Kazakh, according to the students, are the languages of fiction and they are more descriptive, while English is much drier, scientific and technical. So it turns out that the style of presentation is different. There is also, as these students said, a problem related to the use of different formal expressions that may not be welcomed in Russian texts but are conventional in English writing. According to a student, this is not a question of Western or post-Soviet style of writing, but a question of the language itself. Just the language itself may give such requirements. One more point is that some stakeholders frame translation as a challenge, rather than a resource. The point is, as the quote shows, students cannot translate directly from Kazakh into English or vice versa. They have to translate first into Russian and only then into Kazakh language. So Russian serves as a facilitator in this case.
So, let's talk about next steps. Next steps are connected with facilitation of guided self-inquiry with the universities to help them support the multilingual development of their students through the action research self-assessment process suggested by the research team. Adapted from a 5-stage process of internationalization of curriculum development by LISC, this self-assessment process involves the following stages. The first is review and reflect stage, at which 3 groups of stakeholders, students, faculty, and university administration, through the lens of reviewing findings from the research, reflect on the existing problems with EMI postgraduate research programs in their universities in general and in relation to academic skills development in 3 languages, Kazakh, Russian, and English in particular. The second, imagine stage, focuses on collective discussion of possible ways of thinking and doing to deal with the problems that they outlined at the first stage. That is, on imagining new possibilities and types of institutional supports they need in this process to improve students' multilingual competences in EMI programs. At the third, revise and plan stage, based on diagnostic understandings achieved through this collective self-assessment process, a working group at each of the university understanding revises suggestions and develops an action plan to address the issues. In all the stages, the discussing groups are provided with the support and consultancy from the research team. The final 2 steps are conducted by each university itself, with the 4th stage act aimed at implementation of the plan, followed by the 5th evaluation stage, focusing on effectiveness of changes in achieving the desired goals. The process is cyclical, so the data collected in the final phase is used for informing the next cycle, beginning with review and reflect. The whole action research self-assessment process is understood as a guided self-inquiry into stakeholders' own working lives and experiences aimed at developing greater knowledge and action directly useful to a group of people. In this case, for the future of EMI and multilingual language development in these institutions. In conclusion, we would like to say that this research project involved 9 people, including professors, PhD and master program students from Nazarbayev University Graduate School of Education, and happened thanks to the Nazarbayev University Faculty Development Competitive Grant with a 3-year duration from January 2018 till July 20. Thank you for your attention. You can address your questions, if any, to the following email addresses.